is going on, Minnesota Vikings fans? Welcome to the Purple People Podcast. Today is Monday, March 11th, and the legal tampering period. I hate that so much. I hate the name of it. Kind of sounds like an oxymoron, but it has started, and I think Adam Schefter's phone is probably going to go up in flames. He's been on it, tweeting everything today. I don't think there's been a wilder span of like 8 hours of free agent news in the NFL ever. And we have a lot to cover, not just for the Vikings, but major moves all around the NFL. Well, welcome back, boys. Glad that everybody's here. Kyle West, Adam Carlson, how are you gentlemen tonight?
I am doing A-okay. I have heard there's a lot of football news that happened while I was at work today, and some really big decisions for the Minnesota Vikings looming in the future, particularly at the quarterback position, because now it sounds like we are officially in the market for one.
I took a nap because I'm old.
I
Hi,
wish during my hour and a half meeting I was at today at work, I could have taken a nap.
They do that in some cultures around the world. They'll give you time to work to take a nap, and I think the production would skyrocket. It would certainly put you in their mood.
Not here. We raised the retirement age in this country. But
well, let's start with the obvious one, and we'll kind of domino from there. Kirk Cousins.
Marcus Davenport?
Yeah, Marcus Davenport. Horrible news.
How do we fill that void on defense?
Oh, there's so many good things that happened today. I can't even start, man.
No, you're right. No, you're right. We got to talk about Kirk first. That's the A topic, Kirk Cousins. Atlanta
That's what
Falcons.
wants to hear.
Yep.
Whether you love him or hate him, he is the absolute undisputed GOAT of making money. And I understand that Patrick Mahomes, probably with endorsements and his total, will probably make more over his career. But, man, Kirk Cousins still – he's no matter what, he's signing a deal that where no matter what happens from this day on March 11th, the season's like 6 months away, he's going to get $100 million guaranteed. And I saw a tweet. I'm sure you guys said it in there. I think I might have shared it with you. If he plays 4 more years, which I highly doubt he will.
I think he will. I think he will.
Oh, sure.
Maybe he does. He will have made over $400 million.
Kirk's play style lends so well to him having a long career. The way he plays, I mean, I just don't see any real reason aside from any other big fluke injury as to why he might hang it up anytime soon. But Minnesota was not going to give him 4 years. From what I understand, Minnesota wanted to give him 1 and maybe 2. So when it came out what the Falcons are agreeing to with him, 4 years at like $45 million a year, yeah, Minnesota wasn't going to do that.
Well, and if you turn the clock back to a couple weeks ago, the rumors that were coming out was that the owner of the Atlanta Falcons, what is his name, Arthur Blank, I think, was saying essentially do whatever it takes to bring Kirk Cousins in. And hey, it turns out whatever it takes is a boatload of money.
Well, it works out good for Kirk too, because he gets a place to go where he's got a lot of talent around him offensively that hadn't been being used. And also, his wife is from Georgia, so he gets that like this little family thing going on down there. It all works out pretty well.
I think the biggest thing about it, the opinion I have of it is this was going to happen regardless. Father Time is undefeated. Tom Brady eventually retired. We saw Brett Favre end his career with the Vikings. Aaron Rodgers will be ending his career within the next few years. It's going to happen to everyone. At what point in career time and for franchise time of the Vikings made sense? And the key piece here, I'm not saying this shaped Kirk Cousins' deal at all in any way, but you look at what Baker Mayfield got for the Buccaneers. He signed a 3-year deal worth like $100 million, which is good. He has a career resurgence, which means that can happen. But Kirk was going to demand more money than Baker Mayfield. I do think he is slightly better than Baker Mayfield, and obviously the Falcons thought that. But to your point, Adam, the Vikings were never going to match this offer. They would say, hey, look, if you can stay here and maybe take a discount, they've got to pay Justin Jefferson still. That's my biggest red flag of the day, and they've made 3 really good moves today. But you got to figure out the Justin Jefferson thing, and I just don't think it was feasible to bring Kirk back at a reasonable amount of money that wasn't a slap in the face compared to the year average of whatever quarterbacks make now.
Everybody's talking about the Justin Jefferson extension, but you got to remember too, they got a not Davenport. Why am I saying Davenport? Darisaw extension coming up.
Yeah,
and he's going to get a lot of money.
As he should, as all these players should. And I know that some of you guys said in the comment, I understand where you're coming from, even though I disagree, saying Kirk has robbed teams. We got to break it down one more time. Sergio, I'm not picking on you directly, but
Kirk has been very good in Minnesota. He's a very good quarterback.
Statistically, he's at the top of every major quarterback stat for the Minnesota Vikings.
Here's the thing, and I say this a lot, but we have to do it for contextualization for any new listeners that might watch the show or listen later. This is not an individual sport. I say it all the time. I said it on Twitter today. This 22 men are on the field at all times. If you want to do the wins as a quarterback stat thing, you can die on that hill. I will not be a part of it. So many variables could go wrong. Look at the NFC Championship game from 2009. The only thing we talk about is Brett Favre throwing across his body and ending the game in overtime for us. We don't talk about the multiple Adrian Peterson fumbles and the Percy Harvin fumbles. So many things happen, right? Hate Kirk or love him, whatever. He is very good at what he does. He is an accurate pocket passer, and that's the thing that I love the most and I miss most about him. His accuracy was damn good.
Oh, yeah.
And he had a pretty good – you guys remember when he started here in 2018? He had a real bad fumbling issue. He took care of that pretty quickly within 2 years, and then he started to move in the pocket a lot better. He showed improvements, and he tried his best with the team. I think the team mightily struggled when he was playing well, and some of the years where the other side of the ball was playing well, he didn't play so good. You have to have a chemistry of everything going right. But to get off the Kirk Cousins rant, we will miss him. I have no ill will to him. Make all the money that you can. It made sense for the Vikings and where they're at financially, what you've got to do, like you said, Adam, with Darisaw and Jefferson. It's time for new blood. And
it is.
Now I'm scared because Kyle West is going to make me mad today. He's already told me. And I don't know what the Vikings are going to do. I personally said last week, if you get a rookie, don't start him immediately. Give him time to learn. But what are they going to do now that Kirk is gone?
They're going to climb that hill.
Don't do it. He's going to say it. He's going to say it.
We'll get to it. We'll get to it. So I have two big big picture points about Kirk Cousins that I wanted to bring up. I think one of them is that, when he first signed here, we on this show, at least I remember on this show saying, hey, he's going to come into a franchise that's a lot more stable than the then Washington Redskins. We're a lot more stable here in Minnesota. It turns out that was kind of a lie. It was kind of a shit show behind the scenes between Cousins and Zimmer and Rick Spielman. So we honestly, the franchise did him a little dirty in the situation that they put him in. And I think he performed very well given the circumstances with the head coach and the general manager and him. There was a rather large rift going on behind the scenes, especially towards the end. So I almost understand why he wouldn't have been willing to take that quote hometown discount for the Vikings and hey, let's just get a fresh start elsewhere. And then the second point that I always want to make whenever we talk about how much money a professional athlete is paying, and I'll pick on Kyle Smith for a minute, I will say, hey, you should take less money to do your job at work. And what would you say to that? Exactly. Of course.
Nope.
Of course, Kirk Cousins. I mean, you would be an idiot to turn down the contract that the Atlanta Falcons gave him. You'd be stupid to turn that down. Of course you should take as much money as you can when you can. And I don't think it's fair for anyone to criticize him for doing so.
Well, it just doesn't make sense mathematically. This is a multi-billion-dollar corporation, and based on percentages, that's what. And this is and a lot of people are going to argue with me on this because, well, you get paid as well as you play. That's not how the NFL works. We've seen who's the guy that went to Jacksonville a couple of years ago, the wide receiver Christian Kirk. He's done fuck all for his career, and they gave him a shit ton of money. And you know what? I'm super happy for him. I am. But what happens is people get this skewed where the running back market is trash now and they're not getting paid a lot, but they do a lot of the work. It's based on necessity. How bad do you need a quarterback? Because There are 32 starting quarterbacks that start every year, and not all of those 32.
And Daniel Jones.
Dude, the freaking Giants. Oh, man, they're in shambles right now offensively. But even the top 32 in the world that play in this league, there's only about 12 of them that are going to get you a good, solid chance to get you to a Super Bowl. Look at Matt Stafford. He's the best. He's the best for the team concept, to make my point. He was on a dog shit team for years. Dog shit team. But he was really good at his position. He goes to a team that's really good, and then he wins Super Bowl. Wow, weird how that works. But that just proves the point that even with 32 of these guys starting every year, at least for the start of the season, not all of them are going to be great. So I like what Kirk did, and you're going to get paid based on how good you are or what lines up in the stars with the team of we have cap space, you're definitely an upgrade over our guy, and we want to try to win, which is exactly where the Vikings were. Did it work? No. But, hey, one more thing before you guys go. The other thing we don't talk about enough, dude, it was a shit show the first year he got here. That John DeFilippo thing, we don't talk about that nearly enough, and it always gets brushed under the rug. He's had to do offensive coordinator change damn near every year except these last 2 years. That is difficult. Imagine you're a computer programmer and you get told every year in August when you get to work, hey, we're doing a new system this year. You got to learn how to configure this shit. You would get annoyed with that. Like, can we keep something consistent for a couple of years? I have to learn a new system every year. You think that's hard? Imagine learning a playbook and an offense for the NFL when you have 300-pound ogres trying to kill you on the field. Like, it's crazy. That doesn't get talked about enough.
I fully understand why the Vikings signed Kirk Cousins in the first place. It was the correct decision. And I also understand why they kind of chose to mutually part ways with him like they did today and let him go elsewhere. Because part of the reason, folks, why you fired your head coach and general manager was to do this clean slate rebuild. And it's fair to let Kevin O'Connell and Kwesi pick out their quarterback in this coming draft and like who is going to be the guy that they want to build the franchise around. And I think that they did well by Kirk. They gave him plenty of opportunity to win in Minnesota. It was just time for both sides to move on.
Well, let's be honest too, the Vikings right now are in a situation where the Lions are a good team. The Packers are on an upswing, and the Bears are a few pieces away from being an actual competitive team. It's kind of scary. It's time for Minnesota to take a serious look at their franchise and figure out what they have to do to get back into things.
So speaking of that, they've done some moves today, and we'll go one by one here. But obviously, with the Kirk Cousins signing with Atlanta, the quarterback position is the biggest question mark, which the team will have to address in the next 6 weeks. But trying to go in order of when these happened, the first domino that fell today, this is at 12:44, former Texans pass rusher Jonathan Greenard signs a 4-year, $76 million deal that includes 42 guaranteed with the Vikings. So this is your edge rusher, which it tells me that Danielle Hunter is probably not going to be here much longer. But this is a young guy. They're going with youth again. He had a great season last year, and now you have a little bit of edge help because that's one thing we talked about on this show recently. That is, we're going to have nothing going into this year if Hunter leaves. So they get an edge rusher from the Texans to start. So that's very good.
12.5 sacks last year, I believe.
Yep. And the Texans resurged themselves with Will Anderson, a top pick, and then also C.J. Stroud. They turned that franchise around from a top pick the year before into a playoff winning team. They won a playoff game and went to Baltimore, and fortunately they ran into the Ravens buzzsaw. But they are gigantically on the upswing. That defense was great, and I like this move a lot because you lock a guy in multiple years, you have some solidarity there, and he's young. Let's not forget, I love Danielle Hunter just as much as everyone else on YouTube. He's getting a little bit older. He'll go be productive somewhere else. But going with the youth movement, I love. And this isn't one of those Davenport things where I'm like, well, is he going to play? It's that he doesn't have that track record. So knock on wood, we can say, okay, this is a good idea. This is a good signing, and I like that they address one of the edge rusher needs.
One of the only negatives I've really heard about him is that he's kind of a streaky player.
Yep.
And, players can be that way. We've seen that in Minnesota with a lot of players. When they're hot, they're hot. So it might be a couple game stretch where maybe we don't see as much production out of him. But, I mean, let's be honest, I don't think Minnesota can do much worse than they did with Davenport and $13 million last year.
Yeah, and that's just kind of the way it goes. I mean, shit, even a player as good as Daniil Hunter, he'll have a game where he's got 3 sacks on this game, and then the next one he won't have any. And that's how it happens.
That's what happened with Khalil Mack last year. He had one game where he had 6 sacks. He ended the year with more sacks than Daniil Hunter, and it's like he was not better than Daniil Hunter by any stretch of the imagination last year.
But
on paper, you think so,
Yeah,
and
you have
go ahead.
One game where you put up video game insane numbers out there on the field, and that's what happens.
Well, the other part of this too, and the dynamic they could go, we've seen in Minnesota and many other teams, is you don't have to have a Nick and a Joey Bosa on the end. Now, that would be great if you could afford it. But if you have a guy here with Greener that is going to be pretty good, a good starting, possibly blue chip player, if you go get a rookie in the draft, let's say we decide to go, which it doesn't look like they will now, but let's say they went edge at 11. Your pass rush is set for at least, I would say, 4 years if this kid works out. Then what if one is better than the other? They're likely not going to be equal. Well, then you have a Dylan Hunter, Everson Griffin situation. And those are pretty good while they were here. So addressing one and not leaving both pass rushers completely glaringly empty, thank God that they're doing this. And I love that Brian Flores is getting some emphasis here, because we saw many glimpses last year where he was doing a lot of molding with some not so great clay, but he was doing a good job. So if you get quality players, hopefully they'll play better.
I believe in Brian Flores, and I also do believe in this organization, their ability to find pass rushing players in the draft. They've historically had pretty good luck in the mid rounds in like 3 through 5 of just drafting players and giving them time to develop. And then you end up having a really solid pass rusher out there on defense. They've shown the ability to do that. And there's no reason for me to believe that all of a sudden they're just not going to. And I think Adam's Bernie Cat has a lot to say this episode too.
He loves that one button.
He loves.
I added an extra one just for good measure.
Well, we're seeing Brian Flores go out and get some of his guys, which is kind of nice to see. Or these players he's familiar with that he feels might be a good fit. And that alone, I think, is really going to help him in designing what he wants to do with this team. Because he was able to do some really interesting things. Like, he completely changed what Josh Metellus does. Made up a new position for him in Minnesota and has him doing wild stuff. And I know that linebacker was one of the biggest needs, whether it was interior or on the edge. And Minnesota is absolutely just attacking that in the first day of legal tampering here. Well, they also went out and they re-signed 2 of their offensive linemen. So I mean, it's not like Minnesota's completely ignoring the offense.
Yep. Was it David Questenberry and Blake Brandell? They're staying with the Vikings. Yep. So that's a good sign.
Good moves.
I think those are great backup and swing players.
They're filling all the holes they can at the moment with what they've got. And then I am expecting that big quarterback swing to happen in the draft. That's what I'm expecting. I see people talking about, I'm glad Wilson isn't an option at this point. Well, guess what? Zach is still out there.
Oh, you're doing spoilers for my segment later on.
I had to put that up there. Russell Wilson is signing a 1-year agreement with the Steelers. Good luck to him. I'm glad he's not going to be a Viking. We don't need that in our lives.
Could you, dude? That is so.
Pittsburgh is paying him. I think it would have been okay in Minnesota, but I 1 year of Wilson at that reduced rate I'd been okay with, but I don't want him any longer than that on any kind of deal.
It's so wild how the NFL changes. Could you imagine, like, Legion of Boom era Seattle Seahawks? If you would have said, "Nah, I don't want Russell Wilson as a Minnesota Viking," you'd have been like, "What the fuck?"
Right.
So I said last week on the show, Kyle. I think you had to get off or whatever, but it was so bad. Like, back in the day, he kind of reminded us a little bit of Fran Tarkenton.
Fran
He could
Tarkenton,
scramble great, and he could throw a deep ball that was so pretty. And that was that backyard football that would end up beating teams like the Vikings in the playoffs because you only need 2 broken plays to change a game, and he was so good with. But
You only need one missed field goal.
but coming from, that first year in Denver was awful. And I attribute a lot of that to Nathaniel Hackett not cutting it as a head coach. Like, it's kind of like, the Vikings have seen this a lot. They had Pat Shurmur was a great offensive coordinator for us. He got to the Giants, and it was a dumpster fire. Of course. Well, it's going to be bad. So, that version of Russell Wilson I would have taken. But last year, even though statistically was way better, like touchdown to interception ratio, I'll tell you this. Mark Schlereth is a former 2-time Super Bowl champ. He was with the Broncos. He works for them now. He said, I'm just going to tell you straight up, that was garbage time, and he looked like shit last year. And this is a guy who used to play for the team that is an analyst that speaks on behalf of the Broncos. And it's like, he wasn't very good. Don't let that shit fool you. That's why he's gone. And I'm eating crow because at one point I was like, go get Russell Wilson. I thought we were going to get Seattle Russell Wilson, not fucking whatever, insert shitty quarterback in. I didn't know we were going to get that.
That's one of those what ifs for the Vikings and Kirk Cousins as well, too. What if Pat Shurmur would have stuck around as the offensive coordinator instead of bolting for a head coaching gig? Like, what does that do for Kirk? What does that do for Mike Zimmer's future with the team? Like, boy, that's one of those big, we went this way, and if we would have went the other way, you might have won some more playoff games if Pat Shurmur would have stuck around. I don't know.
So while we're talking about quarterbacks in Minnesota right now, their quarterback room is looking real rough. Minnesota will probably grab a veteran quarterback, but I'm not expecting them to grab a starting caliber one. I'm expecting them to grab a strong backup second string mentor. What do you guys think is going to happen here?
Who's even under contract right now? Like, if we had to play a game tomorrow,
Jaron Hall and Nick Mullins.
Oh boy.
Yeah,
that's scary.
Hey, let me just can I tweak your question, Adam? Let's just go ahead and start. Justin Fields is out there. Does anyone in the chat or anyone in this podcast want to take a swing at Justin Fields?
No, I do not.
I don't. I wouldn't like it, but I could see why they would be appealing to do that.
I'm going to tell you guys right now, there's not a chance I send anything more than a 4th round for him, and that's kind of iffy because at this point Chicago was just trying to get anything for him, maybe a 5th.
Well, from what I understand, Vegas was trying to get him. Then they went and signed Gardner Minshew.
Right. Well, here's the thing. This is the thing that I'm looking at. You want to bring in a veteran. I don't want to bring in Sam Darnold. I keep hearing this too. I want nothing to do with this. I do want a rookie to come in and sit, but I think creatively with the athletic ability, Justin Fields intrigues me. He is dog shit as a passer. Let me reiterate that. Last year, and I said this on the show last week, he had the most 4th quarter turnovers of any quarterback in the NFL. The time when you cannot have a turnover, he did it the most. He's not confident, and I don't know why, because he's got a hell of an arm, and if you look at him as a specimen, he's a big dude for a quarterback. I don't know. And he did play kind of well. Chicago did play a lot better once they got Montez Sweat. I would only be interested in him at a very cheap price, like a 5th round pick or something. But one, is Chicago going to do that in division? And 2, even if the Vikings did that, they still have to go get a running back, and they still have to draft a quarterback very high. So I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen there. I don't want to hear this list, though, that Kyle's got.
Yeah.
Chad's got some ideas over here.
All aboard the Sam Darnold Penix Jr. train. Absolutely not, Tommy. Welcome back. Absolutely not to both of them. One is bad, and one I'm afraid he's going to get beat up.
So do you want like a rookie quarterback to start with the veteran behind him, or do you want a veteran to start with a rookie learning behind?
Rookie sets always. Please.
I guess it would depend on how NFL ready you feel your quarterback is.
True.
Depends on the rookie, Adam. I mean, that's if you're going for a Michael Penix, who's a little bit older, how long do you want an older player to sit? you almost kind of want him to start sooner, right?
Yeah.
I don't think that you have to throw them in the fire because last year was an outlier. I don't see many seasons where a rookie comes in and does great like that, like CJ Stroud did. Now, would I be opposed? I mean, if we're going to do it, we're going to do it. But I'd like for him to learn because the NFL is very tough compared to college. But hey, if they come in, let's say he signed Justin Fields, Sam Darnold, Zach, I don't care who you sign. If the rookie comes in and he plays better and he can get the ball to Justin Jefferson and the playmakers better, he'll start anyways. But
So just for argument purposes, like if the Vikings sign Ryan Tannehill and draft JJ McCarthy, do you make that an open quarterback competition or what do you do?
I think you would let them duke it out. Why not? Like I said just now, like if the other guy comes in and clearly they're on the same level, yeah, why not? I think it would be ideal for a rookie to sit, but if he's clearly better than the option, if he's going to be the best chance of winning, yeah, you're going to probably roll him out there.
Oh, Wes, we've been talking about that for a while now.
That's what I've been saying. I've been waiting my turn patiently, but I'm all aboard the you can get Davis Mills for dirt cheap, probably from the Texans at this point. And I think you could win some games with him. You're not going to win a Super Bowl, but that's okay. The Vikings are not going to win a Super Bowl this season anyway. And so you start Davis Mills, you'll put up
Probably not in my lifetime.
Yeah, probably not mine either. He'll put up some numbers and Justin Jefferson will be happy and you'll do A-okay, and you've got the rookie to sit and learn, and I think that would be an all right situation as a Vikings fan. And I would much rather do that than like a Ryan Tannehill. That to me just sounds like torture. I don't want to watch that.
So you brought up something interesting. We had seen Justin Jefferson officially come out and say that he wanted to know what the Vikings were going to do at quarterback before he signed an extension. Well, now we know that that's not Kirk. What do you think the Vikings will have to do to keep him happy and want him to stick around?
Pay him a shitload of money.
Rent a boat.
But do you think there's like a quarterback in the draft or a free agent that you think he'd like more than others?
I think that they'll have to sit down and have a talk and say, hey, look, we like this guy in the draft. We're going to do everything we can to get him. And then also, here's the backup.
But you can't really let Justin Jefferson be like, but I don't want Drake May.
I know.
Yeah, of course.
It's weird. It's weird because you don't do that. Like, you don't give a player that kind of authority over the organization to be like, hey, I don't want you to draft this player, draft another one. And said, oh, okay, Justin Jefferson. Like, I know he's a fantastic player, one of the top 2 or 3 wide receivers in the league, but like, you don't, like, he has to have trust in the Minnesota Vikings, right?
You'd think so.
Well, that's a good point too. I saw this on a podcast this weekend. It's funny, but how much the coaches can't really look into scouts or scouting as much as the scouts and the GM do. That's all they do all year is watch players. The coach has to get the team ready. So you have to have full and complete trust that Kwesi and the scouts are going to get somebody that's going to work for the Vikings and really do their due diligence on these 100 to 130 players they think they have a chance of getting at all depths of the draft. These comments are hilarious. Jeff George, Gardner Minshew is a Raider now, so we can't get him. Gus Farrat, where are you?
Nothing's official, so that ink hits the paper. We just saw that with the kicker from, is it Denver?
Denver, yes. The Jaguars
yeah, I'll
just
sign
keep
to Jacksonville. Then he was like, nah,
we're good. Oh, man, Archie Manning against Walker. Davis Mills, we talked about. There are some – we're just going to fall right into what Kyle wants to talk about. There are some names of bridge quarterbacks, Band-Aid options for 1 year, maybe 2. And Kyle West would love to give you these names. I don't because it's going to make me sad, but we're going to talk about it.
Well, I just wanted to know what you guys think. What is doomsday scenario for the Vikings quarterback position?
Sorry, Tommy. Fran's too busy helping out the Republican Party at this moment.
Oh, Adam. But no, now that Kirk is gone, what is the worst possible scenario? Like, we're Vikings
Sean Mannion
fans.
comes back.
Oh, God. That's
giving Tannehill $20 million?
That's bad, too.
It's fucking bad. I mean, I would have to have a list of who's available, but none of them sound great.
Trading a second rounder for Justin Fields would be great.
Okay,
No.
here's mine. You're going to trade for Zach Wilson. He's going to look awful, and then he's going to get injured. And then, this is a doubleheader for you, Smith. You're going to start the rookie that you just drafted, Michael Penix Jr., who's going to look really good for a game or two before getting injured, because that's what's obviously going to happen. Like, that would be
by
just
then, everybody's out buying their Michael Penix jerseys.
Yeah, like, that would just be total doomsday scenario. And then we're back to Sean Mannion.
I still got my Christian Ponder jersey hanging in my closet.
Which is wild. Kyle, I think, brought it up today, or whoever did in the chat, that Christian Ponder and Kirk Cousins are the same age.
Weren't they in the same draft class?
When did Kirk come out? 2012? So, yeah, he might have been 2 years, a year before. Yeah, the year before Ponder came out. I remember the 2011 3-13 season very vividly.
Ouch.
I don't know what the worst doomsday scenario would be. I'll tell you what is fun talking about quarterbacks in the draft. My guy is Drake May. I love the size. He's about the size of Justin Herbert, and he's got a decent arm. I've watched him play. But Chris Sims fucking annihilated him on these quarterback rankings. He's been, for the longest time, the consensus number 2 right behind Caleb Williams. And Chris Sims did a deep dive, and he said he is the number 6 out of 6 of any of these rookies coming out. His footwork is absolutely terrible. And some other people totally disagree. Some people still have him as the second. A resurgence has happened, and like a boost has happened for Jaden Daniels from LSU, the Heisman Trophy winner. Mm-hmm. So those top 3 could be interchangeable. We know Caleb Williams is going to go to the Bears at 1.
And I've been seeing a ton of support for Bo Nix lately.
Here's what I'll say. If you guys will let me talk, I won't talk too long, but here's it. Jaden Daniels won the Heisman. He played in the most pro-friendly offense, but they did play a lot of cans in college. Like, they did play a lot of good teams. Even though it was LSU, this ain't the Joe Burrow LSU team. But that's the good thing is he played in a pro-style offense. He'll be ready, and he's a dynamic threat, much like Lamar. The downside is the kid is skinny, and he takes some brutal shots. He does not know how to slide. And that the first thing that comes to mind, and this is fucked up, is that Teddy Bridgewater slide where he got knocked out against the Rams early on. That kid's going to get fucked up by one of these linebackers in the league. He's really good, though. He's athletic. Bo Nix' upside is he's like pro ready. He's a little older. Dude, he's played like 5 years of college football. If you have that much experience, you might be able to come in and be the day one starter, but his ceiling is a little bit lower.
Agreed.
Okay. Then you have J.J. McCarthy. He intrigues me the most because the more I look at it, he wasn't asked to do as much as these other guys, but when he was, he did it pretty damn good. It's not his fault he was on the most stacked team we've seen in 10 years outside of the LSU team. But when he's asked to make a difficult decision, and one of the points Chris Sims made that I really like is, when you get into a rhythm of a game, they start the first, like the first drive is always scripted and they get into it, they practice it. Here's a throw, here's an easy throw, and then the quarterback's got 5 completions, and you're like, damn, he looks good. Imagine being on the Michigan team where one game this year they ran the ball the entire second half. He didn't throw it all. Imagine they run the ball 6 times and they get all the way down to the 20 and they're like, I need you to throw a 17-yard out route and get us to the goal line. That's tough to ask a quarterback to do, and he did that pretty much the majority out of times more than he didn't. I like him a lot. Do I think he's worth it at 11 or 12? No. Do I think he's going to be there at 11 or 12? Probably not. And then the guy I don't like Michael Penix. He has a great arm. I don't trust a left-handed quarterback. I'll be that dumb boomer that says it. And he has 2 ACLs and a shoulder injury. If he gets hit in the legs, I mean, what's to say that's not going to rear its ugly head? He is cleared medically, and he threw a pretty ball at the combine. But he also is kind of a statue. And I haven't even gotten to Drake May, which I won't talk about him now, but that's 4 different guys where you're like, damn, there's upside to all these guys. And then there's that thing that keeps you like, man, I don't know what's the risk reward for me? And I know Kyle might like one guy better because of this. So I don't know what they're going to do, but I have a feeling they are going to, for the first time in this franchise, go into the top 10 and they're going to go get a quarterback.
I just want Michael Penix because I want to see one time him throw the ball the length of the field to Justin Jefferson for a touchdown because that sounds amazing. You give me that one time and I'll be happy. Then you can get hurt, whatever. We're Vikings fans. We're used to it. But that one time that it's like a 77-yard touchdown or something crazy like that. Like, yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun.
On this, Kyle, you can draft the kid from Tennessee. What is his name? Joe Milton with that cannon arm.
Oh, yeah.
And just let him launch 65-yard Josh Allen passes into double coverage.
Just bomb it. He's out there somewhere. Just bomb it to him.
Yeah, with all these moves the Vikings are making, I would not be shocked to see Minnesota make a big move to trade up in the draft if they have a guy they really like. And I'll be honest, you say that Caleb is for sure the number one pick. I am not sold that that's true yet.
I just don't see how you could fuck that up.
If they can't, if the Bears don't feel like they can move on from Justin Fields, is there a scenario where you draft Marvin Harrison Jr. and say, hey, we're just giving him one hell of a weapon out there at wide receiver?
Taking
the
him
Bears
one
are
overall?
Fields, they trade one overall. And now Washington, I don't know if they'd be a team that would Washington still jump up?
With the coordinator they have, I think they would be able to give Chicago like another first or maybe this year's second or next year's second, just to swap one spot and say, hey, we really want Caleb Williams. Here's our first next year, and you'll just go down one. And then they'd be okay with option 2 or 3 at quarterback. This is not directed at you, Kyle. I just don't think there's any chance that a wide receiver goes number one, even though I think Marvin Harrison Jr. is a gangster.
And now we got the Patriots that are clearing house and making room for a rookie quarterback, so they're telegraphing everything.
Yep.
They're going to get whoever doesn't go 1 and 2.
The Vikings the same. It's who can they call and who are they good with. The more you say it now, Adam, the more you say, hey, they're telegraphing. Washington definitely needs a quarterback. It looks like Chicago is going to stay and get Caleb Williams, I think. It looks like we're in J.J. McCarthy territory. He looks more and more like a Viking to me every day. Or if Drake May falls for some stupid reason, if he's at 4, you call the Cardinals immediately and be like, give this kid to me and see.
Yeah, because the Cardinals
are
not in the quarterback market, really. So
no,
if they stay there, they're probably looking at Harrison.
Which I have to say, I told you guys maybe in the chat, but Marvin Harrison Jr. is a gangster. He's been the best wide receiver for 2 years, knows he's going to be the top one off the board, or at least should be. He did none of the workouts like running or anything like that. He went in with the defensive lineman at the draft and was like, here's my 225 bench. Call me whenever. And when asked about that, I don't know if it came from him directly or his camp, he said, I am training for the season. When I get ready to go to OTAs and rookie minicamp, and when we get started playing football, I am going to be on the field and I'm going to be wide receiver 1. I cannot tell you how much I respect and love that. I'm not going to come out here. Let's be honest. You can hate what Caleb Williams and Drake May and Jaden Daniels and Marvin Harrison Jr. have done. I'm not going to run. I'm going to do this. You can call them prima donnas all you want. Look at the freaking game film. That's all you need to see. Who gives a shit how fast you run? Who cares? What does he do against live football players?
I love the confidence of a player being like, I am going in the top 3 or 4 picks. And if you're not one of those teams, I really don't give a shit what you think because I'm not falling that far in the draft.
Deion did it, and we love him for it. Now, Deion is obviously a Hall of Famer, and he had swag and charisma and all that. But it's the same thing for Caleb Williams. He's like, I will do a medical for the teams that are very interested in going to trade up. I'm not giving you my stuff to all these teams. You don't need it. Why?
But how do you feel with Caleb Williams telling the Bears, our workout video, our workouts and stuff during my visit are off. We're just doing dinner.
It's fine.
It's fine.
If a doctor, if their team doctor says he has no medical issues, he's healthy as an ox, let's go.
The team doctor can't look at him at the moment.
Well, they will be able to, and that's what he said at the draft. He said, if the team's going to draft me, I'll give you all the medical information you want.
Well, at the moment, that's not accurate for Chicago.
Yeah, I'm with Adam on this one. I think you should probably be a little more open with your potential employer because, like, you're wanting to be the number 1 overall pick, and they're the team drafting number 1 overall. Hey,
you're not going into physical with a team you think is going to draft you at number 1 overall.
Yeah,
and you're like, okay, we're just going to sit down to a steak dinner instead and talk. I don't like that.
Yeah,
I was under
I
the
don't
impression
either.
from what he said at the combine, he will do this because he answered it at the podium saying, I will do medical for the teams that are going to draft me or try to attempt to draft me because he said, all 32 teams are not going
I
to
hope he
draft me. There's
changes
going to be
his
a
mind
handful.
then about doing the dinner only.
Well, so what I'm trying to understand, so you're saying that he said he's not going to do the medical and he's not going to throw and work out for him?
He's not going to do the physical for them. He wants to do a dinner instead.
That's weird. I just heard him say it at the podium that he's going to do it. He's going to do medical for teams. I thought we were just talking about like throwing the ball and working out. I was going to double down like, hey, you got all the film you need on this kid. He has 2 years worth. And didn't he win a Heisman last year? Didn't he? Not this year, but last year he had a Heisman. Caleb Williams, didn't he win it in 2020?
I think so.
What do you need to see? The kid's awesome.
But I mean, I'd pass physical to get a job at a radio station.
I get it.
Playing football. I mean, I get that you can trust an independent doctor, but I mean, at some point you got to be worried about what your quarterback has going on physically when they don't open themselves up, and they've got their dad trying to get ownership and
I'm with
get around the rookie contract scale and everything.
I'm with Adam on this
looks
one.
like a mess.
I'm with Adam on this one. There's a difference between confidence and understanding that you're going to a job interview. And ultimately, I mean, it is a job interview with these top, the top few teams in the draft for him too. And so if they are asking you, hey, we want you to do X, Y, and Z, well, you want to be a top pick in the draft, you kind of got to go along with what your future employer is asking you to do.
I will not push back and say I disagree. I will tell you what's going to happen because when there's comparisons and names to comparisons, none of this is going to matter because some team will take a chance. When you start getting called the next Patrick Mahomes and he looks like Aaron Rodgers and he's like, oh, his favorite player was Aaron Rodgers and he throws like him, these teams don't care. I'm not saying you guys don't have a point. The stuff about owning part of the team, that really bothered me because I was like, I understand that you want to put some stuff in, but you haven't played an NFL down yet. Let's relax.
I'm wondering if Williams canceling that first visit was a power move or if there was a real reason for it.
I didn't know that he canceled. I haven't heard anything on him. I just assumed Chicago's taking him number one. Unless they find a red flag, which could lead to maybe Washington going up again.
I always, get confidence this time of year. I do believe that Caleb Williams will go number one overall, but there was also that year where I was confident that there was going to be a number one going overall, and then the Browns said, you know what? We're taking Baker Mayfield number one, and boom, there it was. And that caught me off guard.
Who did we think was going to go number one that year?
I don't remember. My memory's bad. I'm old. See this gray in my beard? That proves it.
I feel you on that one.
That's why West ain't got his gray beard out.
Oh, that's why I keep mine short.
2 more pieces of Vikings news. So we talked about the Houston edge rusher, Grinnard. Now I'm trying to open Twitter from Tom Pelissero.
It could have been Josh Rosen.
Was he in that draft? There were 9 mistakes in front of him, though. I'll remember that forever. The Vikings have a homecoming. The Vikings are signing Minnesota native linebacker Blake Cashman to a 3-year deal worth up to $25.5 million. Big deal for him who grew up in Eden Prairie and played for the Gophers. He's now a Viking. That's cool. I love this. The Vikings are like, hey, we're going to go fix this linebacker core.
We have filled the role, the Adam Thielen role. Guys, you got a guy who played for the Gophers who can come on in. You can buy his jersey. You can be happy now. Hey, it seems like a good signing, right? I'm excited about it.
Also, to Tommy's point, he says everything is subject to change based on what earlier teams do. This is what happened with Adrian Peterson. Rick Spielman just talked about this in an interview like last week. It's like, we wanted him. We didn't know if he was going to fall, and then he just fell in our lap at 7. Yeah,
because if for some reason Chicago gets the impression that Williams wouldn't be a good fit, they aren't going to draft someone else at 1. They're going to trade that pick and get someone that is happy with what Williams has to offer. It's going to happen.
As they should. I would do the same exact thing. They're just going to keep acquiring talent. And they have a ton of cap space. But
because let's be honest, it's Drake May falling like a rock. We don't have a solid number 2 either.
It's true. I don't think he'll fall that far, but I think that it's trending in the direction that he may not go in the top 3 or 4.
I think he
He
will
should still
fall.
be top 5.
He will fall all the way to the Minnesota Vikings.
He'll pull an Aaron Rodgers and just sit in that room.
Yep.
Oh, if it's as bad as Chris Sims says, he won't be in the first round. He'd be at the end of the first,
That's ridiculous.
which is not going to happen.
That's absolutely asinine.
He's the only one that had this big red flag on it. That was what was crazy to me. But he's also said before.
Well, same with that former Packers quarterback that plays Halo, whatever his name is.
That's the best description.
The guy who's -1 career yards. That guy.
Yeah.
It's tough to respect it. You got to the league, and that's good for you, but you were not very good. So,
but Christian Ponder has a better stat line than you.
Oh no.
And other linebacker news for the Vikings. So 2 linebackers signed today. Former Dolphins linebacker Andrew Van Ginkel.
I love it.
2-year deal. We're $20 million, 14 guaranteed. This deal was confirmed by his agent. I looked and had a good time on Twitter where there was graphics made about some of these players. And I guess in 2023, he was in the top 10 as far as pass rushers go and their rating. Let me go back to this photograph. But I was –
Oh, yeah, the Vikings loading up on linebackers right now is so great because that was one place where I thought Minnesota's depth was scary.
So here's the list of names this guy is with. You will love this because he is above a name that we have watched be a wrecking ball. At number 10, Alex Highsmith with the Steelers. Number 9, Aiden Hutchinson. Number 8, linebacker Andrew Van Ginkel. Just right below DeMarcus Lawrence, Khalil Mack, TJ Watt, Max Crosby, Nick Bosa, Micah Parsons, and Myles Garrett. So post and regular season, he had a 91.2 grade. Take that for what it's worth. Stats aren't everything, but he is in damn good company, and the Vikings just added him on a 2-year deal.
And
yeah, I like
Van Ginkel is a Brian Flores guy.
It's been a spell since we've had like a guy at linebacker. Not since Chad Greenway retired have we really had like a guy out there at linebacker who's like a dude who you can rely on and be consistent. So I like it.
But that gives you Ivan Pace, that gives you Van Ginkel, and then who's the other linebacker we just said? Cashman.
Anthony Barr.
So the linebacker room got a major upgrade today. I don't reckon they're done spending money. Don't know how all this translates, signing bonuses and how they push money around, but that's the major news for the Vikings today. If anything else comes up while we're on the show, we'll let you know. But so they added an edge rusher, 2 linebackers. Kirk Cousins is going to be an Atlanta Falcon, and I have to reiterate again, we thank you so much for the memories. Outstanding human and just an all-around nice guy. I think he improved every year. It sucks that his last game with the Vikings was an Achilles tear, but go chase your money, see if you can be competitive. The only competitive team in that division are the Bucks. So on paper, they have a pretty good roster for the Falcons. So maybe he does. Maybe he's the missing link to let them go in the playoffs and make a run. But certainly leaves the Vikings with questions at quarterback. And I just want to know what's going on with Justin Jefferson. That's my next biggest thing is, are we going to extend him? Are they going to wait and make him upset? Because I don't want that.
I still have a few things on my free agent wish list. I want a nice big defensive lineman. That's on my wish list.
I'll give you
I want a left guard. And I want them to re-sign or sign someone to do punt returns or, find a good punt returner in the draft.
They absolutely have to address the running back position somewhere. They were never going to be in the Saquon Barkley kind of category, going for that. Those caliber free agents.
No Barkley, no Pollard. It's not happening.
But they have to get someone. They absolutely have to get someone in there, especially if you're going with a unproven rookie quarterback. You have to have that solid run game for them to lean on, the play action pass.
So with the signing of Josh Jacobs to the Packers, that meant that they released Aaron Jones. If they kept both of them, that team would be scary because they have great young receivers. They beat Dallas in Dallas last year. Like, they are a team to watch. But they released Aaron Jones, and I mean, sign me up all day for that for the right price. I would love that. That would immediately give you a quality running back number one, not, hey, let's go to the bargain bin and say he's a running back one like they did last year. But will the Vikings pay for that? I don't know.
I don't
But
know
I
what
want
it'll
to
take
share
to
it.
get Aaron Jones. If you were to ask me what I think his market is, I have no idea. If DeAndre Swift got $8 million a year, Aaron Jones has to be like around 15 or so, right?
Maybe, but here's the deal with that, and I'm going to share a tab here. These are the current. This is just today. For you guys listening and you can't see, I'm sharing Adam Schefter's Twitter page. Saquon Barkley went from the Giants to the Eagles. Josh Jacobs from the Raiders to the Packers. Austin Eckler left the Chargers and went to the Commanders. Tony Pollard left the Cowboys and went to the Titans. DeAndre Swift left the Eagles and went to the Bears. Devin Singletary, I believe he was in Houston. He went to the New York Giants. Gus Edwards left the Ravens, went to the Chargers.
I wanted Gus Edwards in Minnesota.
And I don't know where Antonio Gibson was playing, but he is now with the Patriots. That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different running backs have changed teams in one day. So while I hear your point on that, Adam, and I totally agree, he will command some money, there are less places for him to go now. So Minnesota, get on the phone and just
But there's still options as the two. I mean, like Derrick Henry's still out there.
Can I say it? I'd rather have Aaron Jones.
Hey,
I like Derrick Henry,
but Derrick Henry has the name.
Yeah,
I
wouldn't hate
got the respect
that
for what he's done in the past.
Yes, but he also is going to cost a lot of money, and he's old.
But I'm kind of stupid, so I would buy that jersey. And ultimately, it's a business, and that's what this is all about. Whose jersey would I buy? Derrick Henry, Minnesota Viking. I'm on board for that.
Would I be upset if he was a Viking? No, but I'm thinking
you just mentioned is why most of the NFL does revenue share for their teams, so that teams don't try to, make moves to sell jerseys and stuff like that. The only team that gets to keep their share of revenue merchandise is the Dallas Cowboys. They're the only team in the NFL that gets that.
I hate everything about the Dallas.
I was just talking about them in the chat. I think Andrew asks, what do these teams make, like, profit-wise? I was like, I don't know what they make, or if you can look that information up, but I know you can look up the net worth of a team, and the Dallas Cowboys are worth a shitload of money. So I know Jerry Jones can't take all that money with him, but he can have a nice casket to be buried in with lots of goodies because he has all the money you could ever want.
Oh, yeah.
Ugh. But yeah,
so just to kind of escape free agency news for a minute, I am hearing very, very strongly that the next WrestleMania might be in Minneapolis at US Bank Stadium.
That would be cool. I would enjoy that. I would like to get tickets, but I could not afford them.
I wouldn't be able to. I probably wouldn't go to both days, but I'd try to go to one of them anyway.
Yeah.
It's funny. I was telling the guys before we got on about WrestleMania. I was on TikTok last night. You guys know, if you've listened to the show long enough, I'm a huge Shawn Michaels fan, and I don't know how it got into my algorithm, but I haven't watched wrestling in 20 years, maybe 25 years. And obviously growing up in that Attitude Era, I loved him. I loved DX. Obviously you see Stone Cold and The Rock rise. The Undertaker was always a long stay. I saw the bang and the pop that Stone Cold got last night. I know the one guy, the really pale white guy, is Sheamus. And he and a couple other guys were, doing the promo. No, there's no three men that could ever take us down. Just look how tough we are. And then that intro
that was
for Shawn
back
Michaels.
International gimmick where, like, we're from other countries and we're better than you.
Yeah. And you hear the famous sexy boy entrance music, and I was like, that place went nuts. And then Mick Foley walks out, and you're like, oh, shit, they went even louder. And then when the glass breaks, there's no comparison to the love that Stone Cold Steve Austin gets. And I love that Shawn Michaels comes out. He was like 50-something, and he's just in amazing shape. Looks great. Mick Foley's Mick Foley. He's always had a dad bod for wrestling. And Stone Cold comes out in a t-shirt and dad jeans looking like he's about to mow the front lawn. And I just can't take his ass serious because I'm like, you're wearing the New Balances, Stone Cold. Come on. That was fun, though. That was fun. I ended up watching it on YouTube. I guess it wasn't a real match. They just came out and beat the heck out of him for like 3 minutes and did their pop and their finishers and left. But that was fun. I had some wrestling nostalgia, and I watched that quite a few times last night. That was fun.
Yeah, I just kind of want to get that little nugget in there, and in between all this crazy illegal tampering, or legal tampering, I should say, the legal tampering period here.
So, how much illegal tampering has to happen for Kirk Cousins to sign with the Atlanta Falcons, like immediately as soon as free agency starts at noon?
I don't know what Atlanta faxes over paper with those numbers on it. I'd be like, "Yep, done."
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, yeah, you're right. That's not much of a decision, but
because I'm betting Kirk Cousins still uses faxes.
You think he has a beeper?
Maybe
that would
a pager.
Be so good.
You know what? We will reflect on Kirk, I think, a lot more fondly than what the critics.
Have you guys ever sent a fax?
Yeah,
I failed at sending a fax many times.
I used to have to send one every day with my job at the casino.
Oh wow, yeah.
But no, don't you guys think that like everyone's going to look back on Kirk a lot more fondly than what they did actually during his time?
Minnesota's re-signed 2 offensive linemen today. They're keeping busy.
You want us to sign a different center, don't you? And maybe keep Reisner.
I saw people saying like Minnesota might cut Bradbury. I don't see that. I don't see them creating a new hole when they got a guy that they're not paying too much to be a starter and is playing decent enough.
Sure. We re-signed Questenberry and Blake Randell, so they are addressing the depth. Kyle, what were you saying just now? Because I was going to say something, but I forgot.
Oh, that I think that everyone is going to look back on Kirk's time as a Minnesota Viking a lot more fondly than what we did when he actually was a Viking, where we were super hypercritical of everything. You're going to look back at it and go, hey, that was a pretty good stretch that he had as a Viking. And I think he will end up being a lot of people's like sleeper pick for like, hey, who's your favorite quarterback that you watched when you were a Minnesota Viking fan? And it'll be depending on what your age bracket is. You know, you'll have your Dante Culpeppers, but I think a lot of fans, a lot of younger fans in particular, are going to say, hey, I grew up with Kirk Cousins being the guy for the Minnesota Vikings, and I was a big fan of his.
I think his legacy will heavily depend on who comes in after him and how they do. Because if Ryan Tannehill comes in for a year, throws for 40 touchdowns and 2 interceptions, people are going to be like, Kirk, who?
Yeah.
Not even on Madden with those stats happening. No, you're right. That's a good point, Adam. It does depend on the success rate. I've seen it on Twitter today. I've never seen more people be so pissed off at a GM, and I'm like, why are you mad at him? You guys have been calling for Kirk's head for 4 years. Shut up. You've literally been saying F this dude the whole time he's been here. Now you're like, if Kirk goes to them and they win a playoff game, Questy should be fired. You know, like by that logic, every GM in the league should be fired because they're not Patrick Mahomes. Like,
but what are all these radio stations and blogs going to talk about now? Who are they going to go after?
Oh God.
Yeah, what is Score North going to talk about?
I don't know. I'm glad that they'll actually have to have a creative thought for one episode before they find something else stupid to rag about.
They will wait. This is what pisses me off. We're going to draft a rookie, and then as soon as he has a shitty preseason game, it'll be week 3 of the preseason, and the rookie is going to look like a rookie, and we're going to go, holy shit, I can't believe the Minnesota, not us, but the rest of the media is going to go, holy shit, I can't believe they traded up for this douchebag. He looked terrible. He threw all these interceptions, and I'm just going to go jump off a bridge. And that'll be the narrative.
I want to share this on the screen, but I'm not going to like airdrop it and put it up. I'll just read it to you because it's a lot more fun. I shared it in the Purple People podcast messenger between the three of us, but I want the whole podcast family to hear this because this hurts. Happy Free Agent Day. Who else is excited to kick off another decade of this? Let me do 12 years worth of starters for the Vikings for you.
Oh, God.
2005 and 2006, Brad Johnson and Brad Johnson. A 3-year stretch of Tavares Jackson, Gus Frerotte, Brett Favre. A nice 4-year stretch of Brett Favre, Christian Ponder, and Donovan McNabb. Christian Ponder, Donovan McNabb, Matt Castle, Josh Freeman year. And then the Teddy Bridgewater era of Teddy Bridgewater, Matt Castle, Christian Ponder. I can't believe they were all on the same team. One good year with Teddy, a year of Sam Bradford, and then Case Keenum year with Sam Bradford as the backup. Whoa.
Yeah, it's time for Minnesota to go and get themselves a young quarterback, but they also you also have to look at this and be like, okay, Minnesota, their GM, Kwesi Adofo-Mensah here is he's tying himself to a quarterback just like, a lot of GMs do, and the way people look at him will directly be a response to how this quarterback comes along and how well they perform and how short that leash will be. Because I'm already seeing a lot of fans that are very impatient with our GM, and I'm not exactly sure why.
It's crazy, and I said this yesterday. I think, Adam, you might have liked it. It's funny how all people think that their opinion is correct, number one. And number two,
well, that's
that their
because
opinion,
mine is.
Yeah, it's obviously. That's why all of us are getting paid millions of dollars to be general managers in the NFL. Right. That, one, your opinion is always correct. And then, two, that the team shares that opinion with you. And neither one of those things could be farther from the truth. And I don't think people quite understand. They think it's just as simple as calling a player and saying, now you're on my team. The dozen variables that go into just acquiring one player of any skill set and any level is hard to manage. And then you have to play this balancing act. It's like the lady on the unicycle, throwing up basketballs with plates on her head. That's about what it's like to be a GM, to make the cap work, to find the best guy at the right price, to maybe fleece a deal where you take a risk on a player who ends up having a revival year like Baker Mayfield. Or what the Vikings, I hope, do is, now that we're in the position where Kirk is gone, now I have to figure out how much am I going to give up to what team and how fast am I going to do that. I think it would suit the Vikings to call New England right now and be like, I need number 3. What is it going to take? So you go get
New England ain't going to move, and you're looking at maybe 4.
Yep.
But who do you take at 4?
You don't
top
take
3 quarterbacks go.
You don't take a quarterback at 4. Then I just can't see it. I can't see it.
But I think that's the top spot where they'd be able to move up to. I don't see moving up to 1, 2, or 3.
They won't be able to move up to 1 or 2. It's too far back for those teams. But then you've got to worry about teams like the Giants. And Rich Eisen's reporting this on his show. I trust that guy because he's been with the NFL forever. From all accounts of what he said on his show, he's like, take this with a grain of salt because it's a rumor I heard. But I heard some rumblings this weekend at the Combine. The Giants are done with Daniel Jones. Shocker. He fucking sucks. And what happens? Oh, well, they're conveniently sitting at number 6. Drake May just fell a little bit.
What happens when the Vikings trade with number 8 with the Atlanta Falcons to move up and draft a quarterback? And then everyone is going to sit here and go, so Atlanta signed Kirk Cousins, and then you gave them X, Y, and Z to move up in the draft, to draft the 3rd, 4th, 5th best quarterback coming out of this year's draft.
At 8?
Yeah.
I just can't see him being worthy of the number 8 spot, but that's where they're going to go because of the demand that quarterbacks are. You overpay for
quarterbacks. You're either going to overpay in free agency for a quarterback, a la probably Kirk Cousins, even though we like him, or you're going to overpay in draft capital for a quarterback to move up and grab one, or you just flat out have to embrace the suck and have a season where you're like guaranteed to be in the top 3 picks. And the Vikings never seem willing to do that. So therefore, you're just going to have to give up too much somewhere to get one of these guys in your organization.
So we've got the Bears, the Commanders, and the Patriots. The first 2 teams are 4 and 5. They're locked into their quarterbacks. Kyler Murray with the Cardinals at 4, and then Justin Herbert with the Chargers at 5.
Right.
Now, because of what happened, there are 2 viable options in front of us that are going to take a quarterback that we're going to have to compete with. 6 and 7 are the New York Giants and the Tennessee Titans. Now, the Giants have loaded up today on defense, which makes me believe they will absolutely go get a quarterback. They have a lot better advantage to move up into the top 3 or 4 just from 6 because those teams don't have to move down far. But don't count out the Tennessee Titans. They're at 7. They might keep going with Will Levis, maybe, but they have a new coaching staff. They just traded for a center today, I believe. From
I can't
Denver.
imagine Titans drafting another quarterback after one of the last 2 drafts.
Right.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe the new coaching staff says, "Hey, I don't like Will Levis. He'll be on the team because you paid for him."
I don't like him or Malik. Get out of here.
Yeah, that was stupid of them to draft Malik Willis like that. But those 2 teams present the most thing because after that is Atlanta. They just got Kirk at number 8. Chicago again at 9. I think they're going to have their quarterback of the future at 1. And then the Jets, Aaron Rodgers is going to do that reunion tour and try to make something happen there. So you have pretty much the only people kicking you out of the way are the Chargers, the Giants, and then the Pats. So where are you going to go to get up and get a quarterback? And that to me, maybe these guys will be better than Ponder because at Ponder at 11, we were all like, why the hell would you take him? He's a 3rd-round quarterback. A lot of these guys are projected as 1st round. But if they trade up to like 4 and they take J.J. McCarthy at 4, this might – if that goes bad, that'll be worse. And that's the worst part about it. You're exactly right, Adam. They may have
And
to
what
do
are you
that.
and guys, what are you giving up to trade all the way up to number 4?
You're giving up a couple ones, probably a couple 2s. If you wanted to go all the way up to number 1, you'd have to give up at least 3 firsts or pick number 2 with the Commanders. You would have to go up that far and give up like 3 firsts in a row, including this year's. Maybe you get to 4 or maybe 5 with the Chargers, and maybe it's only 2 and maybe a 2nd. But it's still a lot. It's still a lot of draft capital.
Yeah.
And it's a good year to want a quarterback, but it's a bad year to need one.
Absolutely.
And if I'm any one of those teams in front of the Minnesota Vikings, you know what I'm saying? Hey, what about Justin Jefferson? It's never going to happen, but like you 100% have to try to like, how much can you squeeze this organization? Like you have to.
You know that phone call is going to come in a bunch of times.
Yeah.
And you know what? I'm telling you guys now, I don't think, I said it on the show recently, I don't think that's going to happen, but the capital that he would get you your quarterback and give you enough to go possibly to number 2 if they would budge. But
I don't believe there is a scenario that the Vikings would ever trade Justin Jefferson. Do you guys?
I mean, there's always a price. There's always a price, but Kevin O'Connell said it, and Mike Florio set his ass up so good. He's like, well, previous GM said we are not trading Percy Harvin. And then the next day he was gone. Can you confidently say you're not trading Justin Jefferson? And he said, we are not trading Justin Jefferson. And his quote was, we have not had internal or external discussions. Nobody on this planet from this organization or on any other planet has said, hey, let's think about trading Justin Jefferson. Justin Jefferson's the kind of player you try to get, not get rid of. I'm paraphrasing a little bit.
But we're also the team that was like, hey, let's send Randy Moss out to Oakland. So you never know what's going to happen.
But Randy Moss is also the kind of guy that can't appreciate good catering.
I've never had the catering, so I can't speak for it. You know, my dog eats just about anything, so he would probably be okay with the catering.
My cat eats special kitty, and that's not expensive.
That's funny you say that, my buddy. Shout out to James Hart of 18 Visions and Burnt Halo, longtime friend of mine and a diehard Chicago Bears fan. He goes, looks like we're going to trade Fields for a Snickers. You guys got any Snickers over in Minnesota? And I said, they do have a nice cafeteria. I was there recently. It's very nice.
Yeah.
But Justin Fields runs on Duncan. Have you ever seen those ads?
Oh, no.
And it's like Justin Fields on a treadmill on top of Duncan. He's running.
That is the simple humor that I love. It's so bad, it's good. Oh, I think that's about it.
That's fun. That was a fun show. We talked a lot of football.
It's a lot of news.
A lot of news within a real short time.
Not that you guys
we didn't even touch on like the Packers letting go their longtime left tackle and all this other stuff. We haven't talked about a lot of things.
Yeah.
Yes, David Bakhtiari was let go. The Vikings fans really were sought after Christian Wilkinson. I believe he signed with the Raiders. Gardner Minshew went to the Raiders. Just some names of note that you might have thought we were interested in. The Bills just restructured Josh Allen to save some money because they cut like half of their defense 2 days ago.
Yeah, they lost Gabe Davis, right?
They lost Gabe Davis. Trying to think of whom else is like a significant name, or at least a household name that left today. Demario Davis is going to stay a Saint for the rest of his career. He'll probably end it there. Yeah, I think that's it. We talked about Russell Wilson.
For a while, there were rumors that Danielle Hunter was going to land with the 49ers, but apparently that was just a lot of talk around the internet that didn't actually happen.
That would be unfair. It's still unfair that. How does it feel to do something?
It's nice,
Tommy.
It's a nice, refreshing feeling.
I do believe the Vikings are kind of showing their hand a little bit right now by loading up on defensive free agents and leaving a lot of the offense probably to the draft. So, I mean, it could be something that Minnesota wants to try to disguise a little bit better in the future. Or do you just go get your guys, or what do you?
You know what, Adam? You just made me think of something very good. You're right. They are kind of showing that they're going to go after a quarterback somewhere, and I think it will definitely be one in the draft. Maybe they'll get a free agent of note, a veteran, bridge, whatever.
Right.
I think this is the year where Kwesi finds his steal of the draft, because if they address 2 more positions in free agency on the defensive side, let's say they go get a pretty good corner out there. Like, I've seen a lot of reports that they're very interested in Jarius Sneed. I would shit my pants if that happened. That'd be great. Let's say they go and get him just for the sake of this conversation in the scenario, and then maybe you go find a nice upgraded defensive tackle, or you re-sign Dalton Reisner, or you get a new center or something. They don't really have a lot that they need on offense, so you can kind of do that like, fuck it, we need this. Let's get this at this position. I think this is the year Kwesi finds his diamond in the rough in the draft, because the way they're setting up, I can't believe they made 3 moves today, and all 3 of them are significantly good. Are they like, oh, I got Von Miller in his prime, or I got Jalen Ramsey in his prime? No, but these are starters. Most of these dudes are starters. Like, I know the edge rusher, he's going to start.
Oh, yeah.
I know at least one of the linebackers, Van Ginkel, he's going to start right away. And they're upgrades from what we have, which I like Jordan Hicks. I don't know that he's going to come back. If Danielle Hunter stays and it's just this guy opposite, cool. But we got rid of some not so good players, like Davenport went to the Lions. Okay, if they can continue to sign 1 or 2 pretty decent, like let's just say, hey, we signed a starter, much like last year, or 2 years ago, you signed Jordan Hicks, right? Like, hey, he's going to start, he's going to be fine. And he ended up being pretty good for us.
Right.
Not a superstar, but he was okay. This is going to be the year, I'll say it now, where they've got 9 draft picks. They're going to hit on one that's going to be a pretty good, like, oh, man, I can't believe, like, Ivan Pace last year. How did that kid not get drafted?
Yeah.
I think they're going to draft a special player for us that's going to make a significant impact. When and where, I don't know. But because they're doing this now and being aggressive with it, I think they're going to find their guy.
I am not as scared at edge as I was previously. Then that makes me happy.
And we might assume that I think Patrick Jones might stay, but maybe if Hunter leaves, maybe DJ Wadham will stay now. I would like that.
And
I think a team's going to pay a lot of money for Wadham. I think he's going to get paid big somewhere.
Overall, I believe in Brian Flores' ability to just like manufacture pressure. So I know it's important to have those big edge rushers out there that can go after the quarterback, but he's pretty good at dialing up blitzes and like using players in creative ways. So even if you only have, 1 really solid defensive end, I think that that's enough for him to work with. What are you looking at?
Interesting. This certainly changes a lot of stuff we were talking about.
What?
Jacoby Brissett intends to sign back in New England as a reunion.
Interesting.
Huh.
They got rid of Mac Jones. We didn't talk about that. Mac Jones, number 15 overall pick from a couple of years ago, who was rated. Let me put this preface out here. I have never played football a day in my life. Am I saying that I know the game of football better than professionals? I never said that, and I won't. I will say, however, with what I'm about to say, some of you players are stupid. And I don't care how good you are. If you played at a high level, you can still be dumb. The players rated Mac Jones higher than Kirk Cousins one year in the top 100 players.
I remember
And
that.
there's never been a galaxy in any universe where that kid has been close to Kirk Cousins' level. And he's not even off of his rookie deal, and he's a backup in Jacksonville now. So that proves my point. But
So are you telling me that you could jump all the way to number 3 to draft a quarterback?
don't
Maybe.
get my hopes up, dude.
I
Don't get my hopes up.
my penis kind of tingled.
Oh, it's moving. It jumped a little bit.
Because if
That's-
Pat's like
It's
if Pat's like Penix or Bo Nix or something, they could easily grab him at 11 or later if they wanted. I could see
think
that
about
happening.
this too, Adam. Think about this. Gerard Mayo's been on that staff for a while. I'm not saying that he's going to do everything exactly like Bill Belichick, but that team for the last 22 years, 24 years has been about value and saving and trading down.
And white wide receivers.
Oh.
And short, wide receivers,
Adam.
running backs. Yes. But think about that. There's got to be a little bit of that in the room and a little bit of what he's learned from Bill. That gets my hopes up that the Vikings are going to trade to 3. And if they do that, by God, I hope they do it now instead of draft day when it's going to cost them more. Go ahead and get out there and do it now. Let's go.
And we don't even know who's going to be there at 3, but make it happen. 3
Drake
is a
May,
lot better than
you
4.
are a Viking. Let's go.
Marvin
This is the
Harrison
year where the
Jr.
difference between 3 and 4 is going to be huge.
Marvin Harrison falls to 3, and we just pair him with Justin Jefferson, and it's like, doesn't matter who's at quarterback at this point, folks. Doesn't fucking matter. Kyle Smith is at quarterback. Just throw it.
I'd be so pissed, but I'd be so happy. I'm like, we're gonna watch real life Madden right now. This is insane.
Could you imagine an offense with Jefferson, Marvin Harrison, and Jordan Addison?
I can't because I don't know how the hell you please
that's-
all of them and get the
That's
ball.
why
to them,
we have
but-
a salary cap. But
Yeah.
Or if somehow Minnesota like trades for T. Higgins.
Oh my God.
He did request a trade today. That's a good pickup, Adam. It's a good catch.
But I think that's all we have for this week. We'll be back next week, and I'm sure there'll be a ton more to talk about by then.
Absolutely.
But I want to thank everyone for joining us here in chat. Oh yeah, I suppose we should probably plug our stuff, huh?
Yeah.
I'll read my stuff over in the Viking Age. I got a big article coming out in the morning with 10 players who might be the next starting quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings.
Oh, boo. It's going to make me mad. You have Ryan Tannehill on there, don't you?
Of course.
Oh,
He's one of the 10.
it hurts.
He's one of the top free agent quarterbacks available.
It is true.
According to SpotRack, he's the number
top.
1.
Marvin Harrison Jr., JJ, and Sean Mannion. Let's go.
Boom.
Straight to jail, Tommy. Directly to jail.
But you can interact with me on social media at MNVikingZombie. I just had a nice TikTok video go for 450,000 views, so that's pretty cool.
Hey, good job, Adam.
Not bad.
Not that you guys care. The Seahawks are closing in on a deal with Leonard Williams, so they're going to be
With who?
awesome again. Leonard Williams.
Oh, okay.
That sucks. That's a.
I thought you said Mike Williams, and I'm like, oh. Remember when there was like 4 of those in the NFL at one time?
All right, Adam at MN Viking Zombie. Go check
Oh,
him
yeah,
out.
I
That's
did
cool
that
about that's cool about the TikTok video, man. That's really awesome.
Oh, yeah.
There's my stuff. You can follow me at Vaguely Square. You probably shouldn't, but you could.
Thank you, Sports. Appreciate you, Jonathan, Tommy, Wes, Andrew, Charlotte. We appreciate all of you for being in the chat.
Of course.
You guys can check out Kyle West's photography here at kylewest84.pickfair.com. Go and buy a random photo. Make his day better. Make your apartment or house better with a nice piece of art. And I am excited to announce that in the next 2 months, I will be starting my album. We have a shift in the direction that it's going. I think we're going to go with an acoustic stuff to start, and it's a lot cheaper for me to do it that way. It's a lot more stripped down, which is fun. But I talked with my producer today, so you can follow me at Instagram and Twitter at NCDogDude, and I will post updates there. But I am very excited that I will drop original music this year.
I was getting a lot of compliments at the event and online when I posted my picture of myself going to I went to go listen to some Tchaikovsky this weekend. And I wore my Vikings tie, and people liked the Vikings tie a lot.
Awesome.
So that was kind of cool. But I do want to once again thank everyone for joining us in the chat here. We are wherever podcasts are found. So I do want to remind everyone that we are all over the place. If you don't catch us live, you can catch us later on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. And on YouTube, you can find almost a full back catalog. I think there's only a couple episodes missing. But once
There's
again,
a lot.
Oh yeah. Thanks again, and remember to stay classy, Minnesota.